The Twilighting and the Doona Shee. You can never know the loving bond of family quite the way you do once you've stared into the eyes of a beloved blood relation and you see an imposter. One day your newborn sister is the most beautiful baby in the world. Next day you see her and something feels different. Oh, she's there all right, but that's not her. Of course I be speaking of a changeling. Gabriella was switched at birth by the fairies she was. Her sister Maureen knowed it, and the family, the village knowed it too. Now she's found the one with answers at last. Oh, Gabriella, poor Gabriella. Where can you be? She wondered, looking out at the gold horizon as the twilight swallowed the day in its gullet of impending darkness. The veil between the worlds was thinning as the daylight fell, and she could feel the stranger drawing near. All day she had waited. The twilight was beginning soon. They told her to go inside, the family did. The wind was changing. Anyone could feel it. At the consternation of Papa, she finally succumbed. "You want to bring down the wrath of the good people, do you?" asked her father as the breeze raised his last remaining hairs. You want them to take another one of ours? Best get inside, Maureen, and do it quick." She heard that chilling warning in Papa's voice again and again now as she stared into the fire. There was no way around it. The veil was almost shifted. And when Papa had traveled to the far neighbor's place to trade pork for some eggs, whiskey, and some turnips, she had intended to heed his wishes, honest she had, and to stay there, but now he was away. The room was for the moment empty, and the window was not latched. If she left now, no coat and no shoes, just the fresh nightgown upon her, she'd make it unseen, and no one would pick up on it for almost an hour. Now was the time, not a moment to lose. Up she went from her seat. The window practically flung itself open for her, such was her surety. She was going back to glimpse the strange folk. She was going to visit the people of the Mound, the Doona Shee, as fast as her sure, fleet, bare feet would take her. Go through that little place and you enter the other world. Realm of the dead, realm of the fairies, the little folk, the good folk, the folk that took Gabriella, took her away. That thing they call Gabriella in her family's cradle. It looked like her little sister, talked, spoke with the same voice. Nay, but she knowed it be not her. Strange creature, identical, but angry, always frowning and screaming. She shuddered at the thought. Yes, she should be there inside the house by the fire with Clara, Daryl, Nicholas, Shane, Bert, Mama, and Papa, and the thing they called Gabriella. They don't understand, though, not a one. She saw this blivin' stranger confound it all, and knew it were the Doona Shee. Looked into his sad white eyes and saw tears. He had tears in them. She could almost taste his tears, and not a one of them believed her tale. Well, no matter. Maureen was here now. She prayed for the cold to be merciful to her in the ill-equipped nightgown that gave her only her own modesty, and little else. The mud between her toes was cold, but for now, thank goodness, the gale was nowhere. There was still a little wind picking up, but it was a light billowing, the kind you feel when someone's face moves right up to yours as if to steal a kiss, and she pressed her dress closer to herself. This was the moment that the worlds merged, ours and theirs, the other world. This was the Twilighting. If he was to appear again to her, it would be here, now. I would so love to see him and tell Clara, and Nicholas especially, that I, Maureen, have seen the Doona Shee, me, the one you teased and said the Shee would come and steal me away one day for being curious. And you know what? These little folk of yours? Well, he's a giant of a man. He can be small or he can be large. He can be ugly, as you say, but when he comes to me, he chooses beauty. Ah, that would be a wonderful boasting. Alas, she could never do such a thing as tell others what she sees in this strange place. That was Maureen's strength. No need for the validation that comes of telling exciting secrets. She locked them away within her, never to tell a soul. But there is one she would indeed tell anything. Him, the stranger of the Mound, her own sad, aching for something or someone Doona Shee. Perhaps he might share his secret in turn with her. Yea, and he was drawing nearer and nearer. He was her very own little secret. If he is sad again, I will linger and comfort him. Whatever he needs, she thought to herself. Then he will give me back my baby sister. He has to. Her bravery was cut short, for just then the breeze increased, and in the rippling ethers before her she made out the chilling form of the fairy whom she awaited. The fairy appeared. "The man of the Mound," she said breathlessly. She trembled with worship for his beauty, the way he rose up above her to stand tall, the golden curls of his beard blending in with those flaxen strands that fell down past his ears, about his shoulders from beneath a crown of clary buds that seemed to rise, stiffen, and bloom at the sight of her. She gazed upon him, feeling strange things within herself. She felt for her dress as if to make sure it was still there, and though it was, his eyes seemed to see through her entirely. The wind howled around her now, and though she expected a shiver, the breeze was strangely warm. She looked back at him. He received her gaze with white eyes. Soft, there it was again. A single tear began to make its way to that glorious golden beard of his. He looked as if a ghost or a spirit, appearing and yet strangely incorporeal. Though the Shee seemed clad in tattered raggedy silks, the age of which cannot be fathomed, he appeared resplendent in them. Were they old royal robes as told in legend? Was this a fairy nobility? A fairy king? Was he Doona Shee or was he older? Was he of the Tuatha Dé Danann? Though the warm wind wailed through his delicate hanging rags, it was never able to influence them or produce the slightest billowing. The Shee approached her, and she felt her blood stirring. His transparent hand reached up and made its way towards her quivering body. She felt the wind nearly pushing her from behind, as if to bring her to him. She steadied herself with her hand upon the nearby tree. Now the wind moved to beat against her poor nightgown. The closer the hand came to her person, the more it materialized. Again, she felt for her dress, and the hand traveled up her without touching. It passed her belly, her ribs, up between her breasts, over her throbbing heart, her collarbone, her sweating neck, until he found the hair blowing in her face. With perfect effort, he gathered those strands in 2 warm fingers and brushed them behind her ear, smoothing it behind her soft lobe, and she instantly calmed, taking in his ghostly gaze. She couldn't speak. How could she? "Gabriella," her eyes said to his. "Where?" they said again. She felt the warmth of his strong fingertips as they lingered there in the sensitive place behind her ear. She beheld another tear. It was all so confusing. Why was he moved so? Before she understood what was happening, her own eyes began welling up with sadness and water. Her vision was as clouded as her mind. Through the mists of her woe, she saw the twilight pulling white stars in his tears. She felt like she had somehow conquered him, even though he seemed to hold her fast in some sort of love spell. "Tell me, where is she? Alive?" her watery eyes implored. She felt herself moving to him. How dare she? But yes, she was headed straight for him. He never wavered, his white eyes always taking her in. "You are safe here," said his white eyes, as his whispering lips materialized to meet hers, and before she knew what she was doing, she had kissed his tear. It was like salted honey. Now came his lips, nestled in the golden beard, and now her lips burned hotter than they did with her dear William. A tremendous fire roared up through her, and soon she was enveloped in his arms as the twilight wrapped them both in the fading gold. "My sister," she thought, "where is she?" "Your sister is ours, and we left you one of ours. And you will love her," he said, and made a sound which seemed to her almost like a cackle. "Besides, my dear, you are not here for her. You came for something else. Now I shall bestow it to you. Come down to the ground with me. Come here to become with me. Learn when and how you conquered me, Maureen," he hissed as he knelt down in front of her. And she heard the first words now that she ever said out loud to the Doona Shee. "I conquered you? But how?" she asked as he took her hand to join him. "It was a long time ago. Come down here with me." And she traveled down to join him on the grassy ground. "I shall show you how the conquering happened." And she heard another sound like cackling from him. The moon was rising now, and soon she too was laughing. "Goodbye, Gabriella," she whispered. And at last his burning kiss came to her smiling lips.